My name is Judy Floyd. I'm 36 years old, and I run a boutique travel agency that builds custom itineraries for families and small teams. People think it's gelato photos in Florence and hammock selfies in Tulum. The truth is spreadsheets, contingency plans, and waking up at 3 a.m. to reroute a sick toddler's family off a red-eye before the gate closes. I live alone, but my life is full. Clients, staff, airports, a boyfriend named Ethan who speaks fluent calm. If I have a brand, it's competence. If my family has a brand, it's Judy will handle it. On Sundays, I bring dessert. I bring coffee. I bring that it's fine, I've got it smile that slips on like a uniform. Mom's text the night before was the usual: roast chicken, 1 p.m., your dad loves the lemon cake from Briar Lane. And the addendum that was not usual, but often implied: Evan's kids are coming. Please don't be late. I wasn't late. I've made a career out of not being late. The drive to my parents' house is muscle memory. Up the hill, left at the eucalyptus, past the mailbox with a dent from Evan's parallel parking phase. I pulled my SUV into their driveway, the shine of the company decal catching the sun. It's a working vehicle, insured commercially, roomy enough for luggage and samples, for the life I built with nothing but a laptop and a stubborn spine. Sometimes on weekends, my brother borrows it for the kids. Sometimes is a word that evaporates if you don't defend it. I took the lemon cake and the coffee from the passenger seat. Then I took the thin, ugly gray folder that didn't match anything, least of all me. I didn't want it. I had told myself I wouldn't need it. We would talk like adults. We would be fair. I tucked the folder under my arm anyway. It felt like carrying a fire extinguisher into a candlelit room. Inside, the house smelled like thyme and butter. The soundtrack was plates clinking, the TV murmuring. From the den where Evan's kids bickered over a cartoon, and Mom humming as she pretended chaos was comfort. Dad was at the head of the table already, checking the football scores he pretends not to care about. Chloe, my sister-in-law, had her phone face up on the runner, the camera angled just so, waiting to capture a humble brag about 3 Generations Sunday. Evan had that loose, easy smile that comes out when he hasn't had to solve anything yet. "Judy," Mom sang, pecking my cheek. "Thank God, the lemon cake." "You'd think the chicken carried itself," Dad teased, standing to take the cake like I'd brought a trophy. Chloe arched an eyebrow at my SUV keys as I slid them into my purse. "Babe, tell me that thing has seat warmers," she said to no one and everyone. "My back is killing me." "It does," I said evenly, not offering more. I put the gray folder on the chair beside me and tried not to look at it. Ethan's last text sat at the top of my phone. "You're stronger than the room. Call me after." I typed back a heart and turned the screen face down. We did small talk for 10 minutes. Weather, overtime rules, the twins' new teacher who doesn't get boys, according to Evan. The rhythm was familiar, the kind of conversation that pretends to be harmless while setting tables for larger appetites. I sipped coffee I didn't need. My pulse kept count anyway. Dad tapped his glass with a fork as the roast chicken hit the table. It wasn't loud. It was managerial, a conference room ding. Everyone's attention snapped to him like we'd been trained. "All right," he said, voiced the tone he uses when he's already decided. "It's settled." I knew the script because I've lived most of my life inside it. He looked at Mom, then at Evan, then at Chloe, who was already half smiling like she'd heard the punchline backstage. He did not look at me. "Your brother gets your SUV, Judy," Dad said. "He has kids. He needs the space." The room didn't go silent. It went busy. Nods, small noises. Mom said, "Of course," like we were discussing the forecast. Chloe murmured, "Makes sense," already scrolling. Evan exhaled like a weight had lifted off his shoulders, the weight he had never planned to carry anyway. I blinked once, twice. I felt the old instinct, the one that says, "Be agreeable, don't embarrass anyone, you can make this work," press against my ribs like a hand. My voice, when it came, was even. "My SUV," I said, just to make sure I wasn't inventing new grammar. "The one registered to my company, the one I use for client transfers." Dad huffed. "Company, Champagny. It sits in your driveway. Your nephew's stroller doesn't fit in their hatchback. Use your sedan for work." Mom's mouth softened into that tone she weaponizes as kindness. "Be reasonable, Judy. You're single. You don't need luxury." "Luxury," Chloe repeated. like tasting a free sample she'd already pocketed. And you can totally afford another one. I mean, look at you. She gestured vaguely at me, at the life she imagined, at the absence of visible strain. Something in my chest tightened, but I kept my posture relaxed. You decided this without me. Dad's jaw shifted. Don't start, he said, a warning dressed as weariness. Family looks out for family. There it was, the line that has turned my yes into a reflex and my no into betrayal since I was old enough to be useful. I glanced at the gray folder. It was no longer heavy. It was inevitable. Family looks out for family, I echoed. Funny you should mention kids. Evan cleared his throat. Jude, it's not that deep, okay? It's just a car. He smiled the smile he uses when a bill is due and I'm in the room. You've always said we're a team. Teams don't pick a captain after the game, I said. My voice was calm. I felt 10 years younger and 10 years older at once. Mom slid the gravy boat toward me like an olive branch. Let's eat before this gets cold. We can talk like adults after. I glanced at the chicken, at the lemon slices radiating as if they could light the center of the table. I looked at my brother's hands, wide, capable, the same hands that lifted me onto Dad's shoulders in a photograph we keep on the mantel. I looked at Chloe's phone, where a draft caption waited for a reel about grateful Sundays. I looked at Dad, who loved order as long as he issued it, and at Mom, who dismissed discomfort like dust. But we are talking, I said. This is the talk. From the den, a cartoon explosion of laughter. The twins, elastic joy with no agenda. This was always the argument's anchor. The children, the children, the children. They didn't belong to this manipulation, yet they were its currency. I swallowed the grief at that truth. Grief deserves honesty, not bartering. Judy, Dad said, leaning in, let's not be dramatic. We're being practical. You don't need that vehicle. Your brother does. It's that simple. Chloe smiled, like a referee who knows which team will win. Plus, the safety ratings on your SUV are insane. The twins would be so secure. That matters. And so does insurance, I said before I could stop myself. Mom frowned. Insurance? I felt Ethan's text pulse in the back of my head. You're stronger than the room. I set the gravy boat down. My fingers were steady. Dad, I said, you're asking me to put my company, my employees, my clients, and my livelihood at risk because Evan's stroller doesn't fit. You are asking me to pretend the vehicle I use for work is a spare pair of shoes. You are asking me to absorb the consequences you don't want to imagine. Evan laughed lightly. This isn't court, Jude. It's Sunday lunch. I know exactly where I am, I said, and I picked up the gray folder. Time contracted. The room organized itself around paper. Even Chloe looked up. I didn't open it. Not yet. I ran my palm along the cardboard edge, feeling the small nicks from the printer paper I'd jammed into it last night. It had started as a dare to myself. Don't bring it, I'd told my reflection. Then I'd thought of Aaron, my operations manager, his hand on the conference room door after our last staff meeting. You disappear into calls, Judy. You come back angry or empty. We cover for you. Please stop bleeding for people who cut you. He had said it gently. That was the worst part. I placed the folder beside the gravy and the bread basket. It didn't look like a grenade. It looked like something you forget in a waiting room until you open it and remember you put your whole life inside. Dad pointed his fork at the folder as if it offended the table setting. What is that? The part where we talk like adults, I said. Mom sighed. The long-suffering exhale that is supposed to make me apologize for breathing. Judy, sweetheart, don't make this ugly. We're not monsters. We're being practical. Chloe shrugged. Honestly, I don't get why you're being weird. You're the successful one. Look at what you drive. You can just replace it. Replace. As if things can swap stories without consequence. As if the years I spent earning the right to choose safety for my staff and clients were decorative. I looked at Evan. Is that how you asked for it? Or did you just let them do it for you? He flushed, then leaned back. It's not like that. It is exactly like that, I said softly, because you all decided I wasn't a person in this conversation. I was a resource. Resources don't get to say no. Something in Dad's expression flickered. Annoyance, maybe respect, hard to tell. He lowered his fork. We are not your enemy, Judy. I know, I said, but you're acting like I'm your solution. The lemon slices glowed, the roast steamed. The twins laughed again, and the house looked, to any camera, like a postcard. I could see Chloe's caption, family first, always. I could feel the echo of my father's line, "Family looks out for family." I could feel the way those words had become a leash I willingly wore because love looked like obedience when I was tired. I slid my chair in. My knees didn't shake, my mouth didn't go dry. In my head, I saw Ethan's hand resting on the back of mine across his kitchen table last week. "You don't have to rescue anyone to be worthy," he'd said. "You just have to be you." I placed both hands on the folder and looked at my father, then my mother, then my brother, then the woman who married him, and learned quickly that my yes meant she could say less. "Funny you should mention kids," I said, voice calm as a weather report, "because here's what happened the last time someone in this family treated my car like it was theirs." The air in the dining room thickened after I said that. No one moved. The smell of roasted thyme and gravy started turning metallic. Dad's fork stopped midair. Evan gave a nervous laugh that didn't reach his eyes. "Judy," Mom said gently, "what are you doing?" I didn't answer. I opened the gray folder. The first sound was paper sliding against paper, a soft rustle that somehow cut louder than any shout. Inside were printouts, police reports, insurance emails, and a spreadsheet color-coded with dates and amounts. Every cell was a reminder of the times I said yes because saying no meant war. I set the first sheet on the table. "Do you remember last fall, the night before Chloe's birthday?" Chloe frowned. "My birthday?" Dad's voice dropped, irritated. "Judy." "Evan borrowed my company car," I said evenly, "because you said it was just for errands." Evan's mouth opened, then shut. Mom's hand flew to her chest. "You mean—" "Yes," I said. "That night. The one that ended with a streetlight knocked down on Kingston Avenue." Chloe straightened, color draining from her face. That wasn't... I placed the photo in the middle of the table, a crushed front bumper, airbag dust, and the reflection of police lights on asphalt. Aunt Margaret, Dad's sister, who'd joined us that day, gasped softly. Dad's voice went low, a warning growl. "What is this?" "The night Evan called me crying," I said. "Said it wasn't that bad. That the steering went weird." I tapped the photo. The police report disagreed. Evan's chair creaked as he shifted. "I wasn't drunk." "The breathalyzer said otherwise," I replied, sliding the printed report toward him. "You were over the limit. Not by much, but enough. The car was registered to my company. The insurance agent called me first. I told them we'd handle it quietly. I paid the deductible. I kept it off your record." "Judy, stop," Dad said sharply. I met his eyes. "I already did stop, remember? Stopped asking for repayment. Stopped expecting accountability. Stopped hoping you'd see what you were doing." Mom's voice trembled. "You didn't tell us about this." "I protected you from it," I said, "because I thought that's what family meant. But it turns out family means I lose a car for telling the truth." Evan muttered, "You're blowing this up. We all make mistakes." "That's what I said last time," I replied, "and the time before that." Chloe leaned forward. "So what? You kept some receipts and now you're the hero? You don't know what it's like raising 2 kids and trying to survive." Her tone cracked something inside me. The years of being told my success made me selfish. I slid out another page, a spreadsheet labeled Transfers and Payments, Family. Each line had a name, a reason, and an amount. Groceries, rent, emergency daycare, plumbing, birthday gifts you forgot to buy. Plane tickets for Mom when she said she wanted to see her sister. Dad's home repair fund. Evan's late credit card fees. I looked up. "Do you know how many cells that is?" 42, over 3 years. Dad scoffed. "You're keeping score now?" "I was keeping my sanity," I said quietly, because every time I hesitated to help, someone would say I'd changed, that I'd forgotten where I came from, that I was cold. So I made a spreadsheet to prove I wasn't imagining it, that the slow bleed was real. Mom's eyes shimmered with tears. "Sweetheart, we never wanted you to feel used." "But you did use me," I said gently. "You just called it love." The twins' laughter floated in from the den again, oblivious. The sound twisted the silence between us. Dad rubbed his temple. "You've done well, Judy. You can handle it. You're overreacting because of one car." "One car?" I smiled faintly. "It's not about the car. It's about what it became. A symbol that I'm expected to hand over whatever I build. Because I don't have kids, my needs are invisible. Because I'm successful, my pain is inconvenient." Chloe scoffed. "You don't understand. Family is about sacrifice." "So far," I said, "I'm the only one sacrificing anything." For a moment, nobody spoke. The clink of a spoon against a plate from the kitchen felt deafening. Evan's tone softened, like he'd just remembered he could sound kind. You know I was grateful, right? I thought you'd be okay with helping out one more time. One more time, I repeated. That phrase is a trap. There's always one more time, until there isn't. Mom tried to smile, as if charm could patch it. Let's calm down. We're family. We can fix this. I already fixed it, I said. I fixed everything, quietly, for years. You all got comfortable with that. Dad sighed. You don't talk to your elders like this. I met his eyes, steady. You're right, I never have. That's why you still think I'm the child who can't say no. Chloe's lips thinned. You really brought documents to dinner? That's petty. No, I said. It's proof. Because every time I tried to explain how it felt to be everyone's backup plan, you told me I was dramatic, so now I brought facts. The table was silent, except for the slow ticking of the clock. Evan's voice broke it. So what now? You're cutting us off? You'll pretend we don't exist? I looked at him, my little brother with the tired eyes and permanent excuses. No, Evan, I'm not pretending anything. I'm just done paying for the fantasy that this is normal. Aunt Margaret cleared her throat softly. Maybe Judy has a point. Dad shot her a glare. Stay out of this. But the damage was done. The authority in his voice cracked like a chipped plate. I stacked the pages together again, neatening the edges with care. You know, I said, when I first started my company, I kept a note on my desk. Say yes until you can afford to say no. I think I finally can. Dad's jaw clenched. Families don't send invoices. Families also don't take what isn't offered, I said. The silence stretched until the clock hit 2. The roast chicken sat untouched, cooling under the tension. Finally, Evan whispered, So, it's a no then? I looked around the table, at my parents, my brother, his wife, the people who'd mistaken my giving for endlessness. It's a no, I said simply. Mom's tears spilled. You'll regret this, Judy. I already regret everything that led up to it. Aunt Margaret nodded quietly, almost proudly. Good for you, dear. For the first time that day, my breath came easy. I gathered the papers back into the gray folder. We're done talking about my car, or my money, or my patience. You've had all 3 long enough. I stood, pushing the chair in. The scrape echoed through the room. Dad's voice followed, sharp and cold. If you walk out with that attitude, don't come crawling back when you need us. I looked at him. I haven't needed you since I learned to make instant noodles. I left the folder under my arm and stepped into the sunlight. My SUV gleamed like something reborn. As I opened the door, my phone buzzed. A message from Ethan. Did you tell them? I typed back, I didn't hand them the keys. He sent a single emoji. I smiled, slid into the driver's seat, and started the engine. Behind me, through the window, I saw Dad gesturing, Mom wiping her eyes, Evan shaking his head. But the sound was gone, replaced by the soft hum of the car I'd earned. The car that was finally, entirely mine. And in the passenger seat, the gray folder sat like quiet proof that I'd stopped being their solution. The sun was starting to set by the time I pulled into my driveway. I turned off the engine, but I didn't move. My hands rested on the steering wheel, the gray folder still on the seat beside me. It was over, or at least the part where I pretended everything was fine was. Inside the house, everything was still. The silence was heavier than the arguments, but it was honest. For the first time in years, there was no buzzing in my head, trying to please everyone at once. I just sat there until my phone buzzed again. Ethan. Ethan, you okay? Me. Shaken. But okay. Ethan. You finally said it? Me. I finally said it. Ethan. Then it was worth it. It was worth it. That phrase echoed in my head as I climbed out of the car, folder tucked under my arm like armor. I didn't realize until later how quickly the fallout began. By the time I showered and changed into sweats, my phone was already lighting up with group chat notifications. Family thread. The same chat that used to be filled with baby photos and recipes now read like a courtroom transcript. Mom. That was cruel, Judy. Your father's heart can't handle scenes like that. Dad. You humiliated your brother in front of everyone. Evan. You didn't have to drag up that night. I said I was sorry. Chloe. We can't believe you'd use something so private to embarrass us. That's low. Private. That was the word Chloe chose. Private, as if their choices became sacred once hidden under family rugs. I muted the chat. For once, I didn't defend myself. I didn't type an essay explaining my pain. I didn't try to fix what I didn't break. I just stared at the phone until the screen went dark. And then a separate message popped up. Aunt Margaret. Don't feel guilty. Somebody had to say it. You just said it first. I smiled, small, tired, but real. At work the next morning, the office felt brighter than usual, or maybe I just noticed the light again. My operations manager, Aaron, caught me at the coffee machine. You look different, he said, eyes narrowing. Did you sleep? Barely, I admitted. But you're smiling, he said, crossing his arms. That's new. I guess it's what happens when you stop bleeding for people who cut you, I said. He chuckled. Amen to that. So, did you finally tell them no? I nodded, and they hated it. Then you did it right, he said, patting my shoulder. Boundaries aren't for their comfort. They're for your peace. His words settled deep in me. Maybe that's what I'd been chasing all these years. Peace disguised as approval. 3 days later, Dad called. The caller ID alone made my stomach clench. I debated letting it ring out, but something in me, the part still conditioned to be the good daughter, answered. Judy, Dad said, his voice stiff, official, like a boss calling a subordinate. Your mother's upset. I know, I said. Do you? He snapped. Because she hasn't eaten properly since Sunday. You humiliated your brother. You could have talked to us privately. I tried, I said quietly, for years. He ignored that. Your brother made a mistake. We all make mistakes. You didn't have to bring out paperwork like a prosecutor. You made a decision about my car without me, I said. You treated me like a bank, not a daughter. I had to make you see it. Facts were the only language you respected. That's ridiculous. Is it? I said. Because the moment I said no, you acted like I'd betrayed you. What kind of love collapses when it's not funded? There was silence on the line. I heard him exhale, the same sound he used to make before saying, don't start. Finally, he muttered, You've changed, Judy. I have, I said. I stopped mistaking obedience for love. I hung up before he could reply. That night, Ethan came over with takeout and a quiet understanding that didn't need words. We ate on the couch, the TV on low, the world still turning outside my little apartment. He looked at the gray folder on the coffee table and raised an eyebrow. That's the folder? Yeah, I said, tracing the corner. It used to make me feel crazy, keeping proof, documenting things no one wanted to see, but now it feels like freedom. Ethan reached over, covered my hand with his. You don't owe anyone proof to justify your boundaries. I know, I said, exhaling, but sometimes proof helps me remember I wasn't imagining it. He nodded. Then keep it, as long as it reminds you of that. The next morning, another message from Mom arrived. Mom, your father says we should talk again. Family should fix things, not divide. For a split second, I almost answered, almost slipped back into the reflex of repairing what they broke. But then I remembered the spreadsheet, the endless list of quiet yeses that left me exhausted and invisible. I typed 3 words instead. I need space. Her reply came instantly. Mom, you're being dramatic. I didn't answer. I just stared at those words until they blurred. The days that followed were quiet, eerily quiet. No calls, no texts, no sudden, can you help with messages? I should have felt lonely, but instead I felt light. I started noticing small joys I used to miss. My coffee staying warm, my clients' happy emails after a successful trip, Ethan humming while making breakfast in my kitchen. For the first time in years, my life didn't feel like a job interview for affection. 2 weeks later, I got an envelope in the mail from my insurance provider. I almost didn't open it. When I did, I froze. Notice, unauthorized driver incident, record updated. Evan's crash had officially been logged under my business policy, even though I'd paid the deductible privately. My company could have lost its coverage if another incident had happened. My throat went dry. That wasn't just family drama, it was liability. I sat down, the gray folder open again. I added one more page, the insurance letter, and beneath it I wrote in bold ink, This is why silence isn't kindness. I knew what I had to do next. The next Sunday, Mom called again. Lunch, same time, she said, like nothing had happened. Evan and the kids will be there. You should come. It'll be nice to clear the air. No, Mom, I said calmly. There was a pause. Excuse me? I said no, I'm not coming. Judy, she said, voice trembling between anger and disbelief. You can't just ignore your family forever. I'm not ignoring anyone, I said. I'm protecting myself. She went quiet, then in a smaller voice. You're being cruel. Maybe, I said. But for once, I'm being fair. To me. I ended the call and stared at my phone until the screen dimmed. Then I opened my laptop and started something new. A private document titled Boundaries. A checklist, a map, a promise. Rule number 1. No more rescuing adults who refuse to grow up. Rule number 2. No decisions about my things without my consent. Rule number 3. Silence is not peace. I saved it, closed the laptop, and looked at the gray folder on the table. It no longer looked like evidence. It looked like closure. Still, I had one last conversation to have, and this time it wouldn't be over dinner. By midweek, the calls stopped coming. That should have been a relief, but it felt like the air before a storm. Thick, waiting, electric. I woke to 27 unread messages one morning. They weren't from clients. They were from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, aunts, even Dad's old coworker, each with a version of the same script. Family is everything. Your poor mother is heartbroken. You didn't have to air dirty laundry. It was surreal. My brother's drunk driving was a mistake. My silence was grace. But the moment I told the truth, it became betrayal. I didn't reply to any of them. Instead, I opened my blinds, let the morning light in, and started a new routine. No phone until after 10 a.m. The world could wait. Ethan noticed. He didn't say much. He just smiled when he saw me drinking coffee without my phone nearby. Peace looks good on you, he said. Feels weird, I admitted, like I'm on vacation from chaos. He grinned. Maybe that's what normal people call peace. At work, I was sharper than I'd been in months. I closed 2 deals, planned a conference retreat for a tech firm, and came home before sunset for once. But the silence didn't last long. That Thursday evening, my phone buzzed again. Dad. I let it ring out. He called again and again. By the 5th missed call, I caved. Judy, he said when I finally answered, voice cold. You think you can walk away from family like we're some clients you can fire? I didn't walk away, I said. I just stopped paying for access. Don't get smart with me. I'm not, I said quietly. I'm just done playing dumb. There was a long pause. Then his tone softened, dangerously so. Your mother's not sleeping. Your brother's furious. He's talking about selling his car now. You can fix this. By giving him mine? I asked. By being reasonable, he said. Dad, I said. I was reasonable for 36 years. I called it love. You called it convenience. His breath caught. After everything we've done for you? You lent me $400 once, I said. I paid you back in 2 weeks. Everything after that was me doing for you. There was a click. He'd hung up. I sat there for a long moment, staring at my reflection in the dark phone screen. It was strange how clean an ending could sound. That weekend, Ethan drove me to the coast. The wind whipped through the open window, the salt air mixing with the quiet hum of the road. He looked over at me, his hand resting lightly over mine. You sure you don't want to text them? He asked. I'm sure, I said. They know where I am if they want to talk like adults. We stopped at a cliff overlook. The waves below roared like applause. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was running late for someone else's crisis. This car, Ethan said, patting the dashboard. It's kind of symbolic now, huh? I smiled. Yeah, it's mine in every way that matters. You ever think you'll forgive them? I already did, I said. But forgiveness isn't the same as access. He nodded, understanding instantly. That was one of the things I loved about him. He never asked me to shrink to keep the peace. When we got back, the group chat was gone. Deleted. I found out later from Aunt Margaret that they'd made a new one without me. She sent a screenshot. Group name, Plan B. Dad, everyone pays for their own stuff now. Mom, we'll manage. Evan, fine. I stared at the image for a long time. Then I laughed. Loud, real, from somewhere deep in my chest. Aunt Margaret sent another message. It's about time. You taught them something. Maybe I had. Monday morning, I parked the SUV outside my office. The decals gleamed in the sunlight. The company logo, clean and professional. It no longer looked like a family van. It looked like the start of a new chapter. Aaron saw me through the glass door. New branding? He asked. New boundaries, I said. He smiled. I like those better. Inside, the team clapped as I shared our latest client win. I realized, as I stood there, that I had built something my family never understood. Community that didn't demand I bleed for belonging. Later that night, as I tidied the office, I taped a small note inside my desk drawer. I don't owe my silence to be loved. A few days later, an envelope arrived at my apartment. The handwriting was Mom's. Inside was a photo of the twins, grinning with ice cream smeared on their faces. On the back, she'd written, They keep asking why Aunt Judy doesn't visit anymore. I don't know what to tell them. I turned the photo over and looked at those bright little faces. My throat tightened. Then I wrote a short note on a fresh card. Tell them Aunt Judy loves them very much and that grown-ups sometimes need time to heal before they can come back. I mailed it that same evening. When I got home, Ethan was on the couch, laptop open, half a glass of wine beside him. He looked up. Long day? I nodded, setting down my bag. Just tying loose ends. He studied me for a moment, then smiled. You're lighter. Maybe because I finally stopped carrying a family that didn't want to walk. He raised his glass. To freedom, then. I clinked mine against his. To boundaries. We sat in comfortable silence, the kind that doesn't demand explanation. The city lights flickered through the window. For the first time, I wasn't waiting for the next crisis. I'd survived the fallout. And what was left? Peace, quiet, my own life, felt more than enough. It's been 6 weeks since that Sunday lunch, the one where I finally stopped being everyone's emergency plan. The house is quieter now. Mornings stretch longer. The gray folder still sits on a shelf in my office, labeled neatly in my handwriting. I don't need to look inside anymore. Just knowing it's there reminds me of the day I stopped apologizing for protecting myself. Sometimes I scroll through my phone and catch my thumb hovering over family thread, but the chat's gone. Deleted. Replaced by a new one I'm not part of. I thought that would sting more than it does. It just feels honest. One afternoon, while preparing a travel presentation for a school fundraiser, my phone buzzes. It's a message from Aunt Margaret. Look at this, she writes, attaching a screenshot. The image shows a new group chat titled Plan B. Dad's message is pinned at the top. Everyone pays for their own stuff from now on. Mom replies with a heart emoji. Evan writes, guess we'll figure it out. And then silence. Aunt Margaret adds her own comment below the image. Looks like you started a family revolution. I smile, shaking my head. Maybe just a budget meeting with feelings, I text back. But later that evening, when I reread the thread, something inside me softens. For all their resentment, maybe they finally understood what I'd been trying to say for years. That love isn't a transaction, and responsibility doesn't equal debt. A few days later, I'm sitting in my office when Aaron knocks gently on the glass wall. Got a minute? Sure, I say, closing my laptop. He steps inside, holding a clipboard. The hotel chain approved your proposal. They want us to handle their entire fall retreat series. I blink. Seriously? He nods, grinning. Your presentation last week sealed it. They said you made organization sound like an act of love. I laugh. That's the nicest thing anyone said about spreadsheets. Aaron pauses at the door. Hey, Judy. Whatever storm you walk through, keep walking. You're better for it. When he leaves, I stare at the window reflection. He's right. I look different, steadier, lighter. That weekend, I drive out to the coast again. The same stretch of road Ethan and I took before, but this time I'm alone. The waves crash below, wild and forgiving. I pull over, park, and just sit there. Ethan had texted earlier. Dinner tonight? My treat. I'd said yes. Because this time I want to say yes, freely, not out of guilt. I rest my hands on the steering wheel and glance at the decal on my SUV. Floyd Travel Co. Gleams in the sunlight, proud and unbothered. For years, that car carried everyone else's weight. Groceries, emergency rides, silent favors. Now it carries only me. The wind whips through the window, smelling of salt and second chances. My phone buzzes again, an unfamiliar number. I almost ignore it, but curiosity wins. Text. Hey, Judy, it's Evan. Chloe and I are getting a minivan. Thought you'd want to know. Thanks for sending that dealership contact. We got a fair deal. I stare at the screen for a moment, then type back. I'm glad, Evan, really. Take care of it. He replies with a simple thumbs up emoji. It's not an apology, it's not a reunion, but it's something. That night, I meet Ethan for dinner at our favorite little Italian place downtown. The same one where I used to answer family calls between courses. This time, my phone stays face down. He raises his glass. To peace? To boundaries, I correct, smiling. We clink glasses, the candlelight flickering between us. Your family reached out yet? He asks. A little, I say. They made a new chat without me. Apparently everyone pays their own way now. Ethan chuckles. Look at you, trendsetter. Maybe, I say. But I think the trend I'm most proud of is not rescuing people who drown themselves. He grins. That one's going to catch on slow. Good, I say. That means it's worth doing. When I get home, I tape something new beside my note that says, I don't owe my silence to be loved. The new one reads, boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with locks and keys I get to choose. The next morning, I wake early, brew coffee, and open an envelope from a client who just returned from Rome. Inside is a postcard. Thanks for showing up. You make travel feel human. I smile. Of all the things I've built, showing up is the one I'm keeping. Dad used to say, family looks out for family. I whisper into the morning light, exactly, starting with me. I grab my keys, step into the sun, and drive. The road ahead is open, quiet, wide, mine.